Thank you again so much for joining us. Again, I'm Randi Braun, and welcome to Working Moms Burnout Bootcamp, Bless and Address This Mess. For those of you who I haven't met before, I'm an executive coach and the CEO of the women's leadership coaching and advisory firm, Something Major. I want to thank you, busy working moms, for coming here. For those of you who are joining us on the East Coast, good evening. For those of you who are joining us on the West Coast, congratulations for almost being done with your day. It's wonderful to have some folks here who have been to our Working Moms Burnout Bootcamp sessions before. For those of you who are new to Something Major is dedicated to empowering working women and working moms to live their very best lives, feeling more fulfilled, more successful, less burnt out, and like we're living and leading on purpose. As we marked the 1 year anniversary of the pandemic, we launched this free series called Working Moms Burnout Bootcamp, where basically I sit down with some of the amazing women in my life who I know are experts on things that I care about as a working mom, that you care about. And that is why I could not be more excited to have this conversation this evening with Anne Gillyard. If your house is anything like my house, this is a place where it's my office. It's my home where I live. It's where my kids have gone to school, even though my kids now are back in care. It's where we spend basically every waking minute of our day. And it's messy and cluttered all the time. And so we're here to talk so much more about decluttering our houses. We're here to talk about decluttering our life, about creating creativity and creating flow. And for this Working Moms Burnout Bootcamp session on blessing and addressing this mess, I couldn't be more excited to introduce our speaker, Anne Gillyard. Anne, are you here with us? Meet you?
Yeah.
Yay! Anne and I have been talking about doing this for such a long time. Anne, thank you so much for being here, and welcome to Something Major. Welcome to Working Moms Burnout Bootcamp.
I am just tickled to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Anne, let me just introduce you to everybody properly so that they can know just how cool your work is. So Anne co-founded Grow Playrooms in 2019. Grow, some of you might have read about it, those of you who are in Washington. It was just recently featured in Washingtonian. But if you're outside the Washington region, or if you missed that article on Anne, Grow is an educational design firm specializing in imagining, designing, building, and organizing soothing spaces for children to play, learn, and you guessed it, grow. They create spaces that not only make it easy for families to fully enjoy their time in their homes together, but every design is built on the foundation of developmental research. Before becoming an entrepreneur, Anne spent nearly a decade in the classroom writing curriculum, working closely with parents, and teaching teachers how play and learning are inseparable. So Anne, we are so excited to have you here tonight.
Again, I could not be cheerier. There's not a place I would rather be.
Amazing. So, obviously Anne does so much more than just design playrooms. In fact, before we started tonight, when Anne and I were hanging out in the green room, before we came here to hang out with all of you, I was just saying to Anne, I was at the park this weekend and was talking to a friend of mine who I didn't even realize had worked with Anne to design this space. And it's not just what clients say about Anne, it's my own friends who have worked with Anne. The overwhelming thing I constantly hear from people is it's not just about the spaces for the kids, it's about creating spaces in our house that create boundaries that make us feel like we're enjoying our space. And so, Anne, let's just kind of talk a little bit more about your background. Obviously, as I just shared with everyone, you kind of grew up professionally as a teacher. Help us understand what got you interested in moving from the classroom to helping families design and customize these spaces in their home where they can, again, be soothed, be creative. I think of this as reclaiming my space, reclaiming my sanity.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it because it's about the whole family, the whole family's happiness, the whole family's energy. And we kind of tackle that in so many ways. But what really got me interested was um, my background, my master's degree, it's all in early childhood ed. And in that study and in my practice, I just saw the difference between families who play or provide opportunities for their children to play and children who don't have the same kind of opportunities to play, and just the drastic difference that it creates in family dynamics, in just achievement, in comfort in schools, in language development, in motor development, in like all of the things that we want our kids to really build strength in, right? Like children who do not come in with those same experiences in school have they're starting at a deficit. And so it really felt so important to me to like make play easier for families. It's just like, let's just make it easier. So I was actually like sitting on the floor of my now business partner's playroom, nursing. We were both nursing because we were on maternity leave at the same time. I was like, do you want to start a business with me? And she was like, yeah, doing what? I was like, okay, well, we just have to make it easier for families. It's hard. Being a mom is hard. Being a parent is hard. Work is hard. And then we're tired. And like, we want to give everything to our kids, but like, we're people too. So we just wanted to provide families with information, with transformation, and with like a life-changing space that can just make you and your family feel great about being there.
Yes, and again, we'll have to link to this in the follow-up, because these spaces, I mean, when I saw the spread in Washingtonian, if you ever read the newspaper and you see someone you know unexpectedly, it was like, oh my God, I know her, and this room is amazing. Anne, it's so interesting, right? Because play is so different for different people. I know that we can see the attendees, they can't see each other. Most of them don't know each other. What's so cool about these Something Major events is we have people joining from all over the country. We've had people join from other countries, and play is so different for every family. Like, I'm not the type of parent, I never have been. I have 2 kids under 5. I'm not the type of parent to like get down on the floor with my kids, but we have a really playful, fun dynamic. I know we have some people joining here who have kids in elementary school, some who have kids in middle school. I think we have some even in those early high school, and we have people here who I know have babies under 1. So help us understand, regardless of how old our kids are, just help us zoom out and understand a little bit more. What is the connection between playfulness, creativity, and our physical spaces? Like, what are some of those universals? So if you're not a get down on the floor goo goo gaga with your babies when their baby's kind of a mom, or your kids are older, or maybe you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are some kind of evergreen things that we should understand so that we can kind of make this philosophy our own?
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing that I want to, because I feel like also as parents and especially as moms, we put a lot of stuff on ourselves, like thinking that we should be a certain way, right? Like, oh my gosh. And I just wanted to take that and throw it away for a second, because it really is about your family dynamic, and your playfulness may be different from someone else's playfulness, but it's really about filling your household with joy, right? And even more so, that joy can be accomplished in so many ways, but it's so much about inviting your kids to be playful also independently. That's super important.
Plus one for that.
Yes, and it's super important for us, right? Because then, oh my gosh, maybe we'll finish a cup of coffee, right? But also, like from infancy, like infants can play by themselves. Like we can put them down and they can look in a mirror for, it might be 1 minute, but that's independent play, right? To high schoolers, maybe they're drawing, maybe they're like building or crafting, maybe they're still doing Legos, maybe they're building models of something, right? Like maybe they're writing. A lot of this creativity just like grows and changes and transforms in the shape it takes, but it's the same skill. So that independent play that we create and foster and invite as grown-ups, like it just grows from infancy to like grown-uphood, right? Like even we are happy when we're playful, right?
Totally. And it's really interesting, right? Because one of the things that I'm talking to my clients about all day long is I'm with my kids all day long, and yet I feel so disconnected from them. So I was talking to one client a few weeks ago. She has middle schoolers. And to this point about creativity, she was like, I just want to have fun with my kids. Like, I feel like every time I talk to them, I'm telling them, like, they need me while I'm on an important Zoom call. And so she and her daughter, her daughter's really into this kind of cartoon thing. And so they watched the cartoon and did some drawing together around it. And she was like, I had no idea that a Saturday could actually be that much fun. And I understand for parents of older kids too, right? I think it's called the potted plant theory, that your teenagers want you around. They just want to know that you're nearby, but they don't actually always want to interact with you. So it really is interesting, how it changes. And I think we can all relate to feeling stressed out and wanting more joy. I had a client the other day just say to me, I've been waiting for my superpowers to kick in and I just realized they're not, so I need to recalibrate. And it was just such a human moment, because who hasn't felt that way, right? We put so much pressure on ourselves.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So speaking of Zoom, and before we started talking here, you and I were talking about what I call the scramble. And before actually I talk about the scramble and this story, we want to hear from you all. So please feel free to throw into the chat, how old are your kids? Please feel free to throw into the Q&A your questions you have for Anne. You have a world-class designer creativity expert here. Please ask her all of the questions that you have. And while we're waiting for your questions to come in, and I was confessing to you, and I confessed this to my Instagram followers yesterday, I was about 20 minutes out from speaking. And I, open up the Zoom to check my lighting, check my angles, and it's like I spy with my little eye 8 things that shouldn't be in this frame. I had a yoga mat. I had, a toy. I even had a bra. I had a bra in the frame. This was my office, okay? Like, we need to talk about compartmentalizing these spaces in our house so that I don't accidentally broadcast to 100 people with a brassiere in the background. So what tips do you have for us for organizing our office space and segmenting it differently from play space? We're going to talk more about kid space, but let's just talk about us for a second, so that moms can avoid the scramble that I went through yesterday.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, so first of all, I want to let everyone, it's very human, right? And I also want to say that it gets easier as kids get older, especially during the pandemic, when we are being sole care providers and on Zoom calls. We actually worked with a lot of clients to help set up mini kind of office, like a mini play office for their kiddos
I love that.
to supervise while on Zoom, right? Knowing that things will still get sticky, but if we really purposefully plan for what are high interest activities, things that come in and out of this space to create novelty and interest, things that are easy to clean up, very few minimal items at any one given time, and that we set our kids up for success, that it's in one spot, everything has a place to go away. That's just our reality right now for many people. And that's okay. And sometimes those spaces get a little wild. But there is, depending on the age of your kid, sometimes we have to blend those spaces during these times. Hopefully not so much coming down the line, right? Hopefully we'll be able to get our
from your mouth to God's ears on that, right?
But for us, for our spaces, if we have the kind of the space and the ability to be okay, my door is closed and you're not welcome in here, right? What I always suggest that we do is we think about, what is the purpose of this space? What does this space need to hold for me to support me and what I need, right? And that goes from design to organization, right? And I'll just tell you, I picked this paint color for my office before I was actually in my office, and now I'm oh, because it doesn't feed me the right way. This is a bedroom color for me. This makes me feel this is not, my energy is way too high up here. I need a different color. So I'm redoing my office, right? But our office needs to feed us. Our space needs to feed us, right? And so that's kind of the design aesthetic piece of it. And so it's really figuring out, it's looking at photos, it's looking, look at a magazine, right? Like what speaks to you, what colors make you feel the way that you want to feel, and kind of building around that. But then as far as organization goes, it's also like, what are the things that have to happen in here? And then what, like, for example, like my printer has to happen in here, right?
That's a great example.
It's a great example. It has to happen in here. It's not going to happen anywhere else in the house. Okay, well, how often do I access the printer? Not so often, right? But I still don't want to like have to go under and in and through to get it, right? So it's like, what has to happen in here? And then how do I make it really easy to access if I really need to easily access it? So I like to, I use this a lot when I talk about kids spaces, because that's what I normally do. But I think about,
and we're going to talk more about kids spaces. We are going to talk more about kids spaces.
But this is relevant, right? So pretend you have an oven mitt on, right? Because that's about how like careful our kids are when they're putting away stuff. But also, when I'm in a rush, I don't want it to be hard to put anything away, right? So I have to plan like I have an oven mitt on. Like if it needs a clear spot on the shelf, that's it's the only place. Like I need to be able to go and it's away, right? So a lot of that is like decluttering, less as much as you can. And sometimes that's hard and it's emotional, and I want to name that. And we help a lot of clients kind of go through that process, and it's a constant process. But it's also like stacking boxes. It's too stressful. You're busy to be able to like lift up a box, move it over, lift up a lid, put it in. Like, no, an oven mitt cannot do that. Right? Like we need our.
No, I never thought about that, right? I mean, and I'm a habitual piler. Mm-hmm. Like if you were to see my desk, it's just piles. And then I bought like one of these little carts, and it was mint green, and it made me happy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wait, like I'm just redoing my pile, right? I love that idea of the oven mitt. And actually we're hearing in the chat from people that like, you're blowing their mind. And I didn't even really understand the power of spaces and about the things like color until I worked with my own phenomenal designer who does work on more adult spaces. Her name's Heather DiZabella. She's also here in DC. And she really helped me understand that a house can be an extension of your personality. And what I love about what you do is that thinking about the spaces, especially for our children's spaces and for the spaces we need to create in this pandemic, even though we're returning, like it's not too late. Oh, Heather's here. Hi, Heather. Shout out to Heather.
Hi.
Hi, Heather. And, you know, just really thinking about how we create these spaces as like you talked about, extensions of our personality, extensions of our parenting philosophy, extensions of our vision. And so we got a question, Anne, for you from Heidi. She says, we have a tiny house. Heidi, you must live in Washington like we do. I'm envisioning one of these wonderful, beautiful little row houses. Throw us in the chat where you live. But they're lucky to have a basement that has become our son's play space, and this is your jam. He loves trains, but I want him to try out other enriching activities. How do you recommend we balance setting up and buying toys that encourage varied enrichment, but don't just lead to crazy clutter? And as I predicted, in my mind's eye, I saw Heidi in a Capitol Hill row house, and in fact, she lives in a Capitol Hill row house. So it sounds like we have some other people from the chat who have kids that are Heidi's age. So let's answer Heidi's question about this like train and enrichment and play space and see what other dots we can connect for our other participants. What do you think, Anne?
I love that. And like, I feel you, Heidi. We work with so many Capitol Hill families. Like I have 3 clients right now who are on the Hill. So like, I feel you. So at Grow, we've identified 8 different types of play that we like to make sure are represented somehow in your home. Okay. And
can you walk through them? Because I have no idea what different types of play could be, honestly.
I'm gonna walk you through. And I did this the other day on another fireside chat where I was like, I got to like 6 and I was like, well, I can't remember the other 2. I don't even know what I said.
Fine. Tell us the ones that answer Heidi's question. Tell us just the ones that answer Heidi's question.
Well, I'll give you a couple, right? So, and this is relevant, right? So our 8 different types of play include gross motor, skill-based, which is, I include fine motor in there because things like threading, like those are toys that help kids practice specific skills that they then perfect and never want to play with that toy anymore, right? So there are there are arts, there's like visual art, there's music and performance, there's small world, which is when I'm the director and I'm telling all my characters what the story is, so trains is a really good example. So dolls, little animals, like building little worlds. I'm the director, they're the actors. There's also imagination where I'm the director and the actor. I'm putting on a costume, I'm like moving around, doing all the things. There's engineering and building. So there's all of these different types of play, right? I lost track, but anyway, there are all these different types of play. And so what we suggest is that you set up what we call a balanced play space, where it has a little bit of an opportunity for everything. Because we don't know whether I think you said your son, we don't know whether your son is gonna like all of a sudden say, oh, you know what would be really great? I think I'm gonna now draw pictures of all the trains that I love. Right?
That's like something my daughter would do. She would ask for trains and I would deck out the house with trains. And then she'd be like, do you have stickers so that I can spend all of my time putting stickers on the train? Yeah, that is classic.
Yes.
Keep going.
Yes. And kids are meant to kind of flitter between one thing and another. That's how their brains work. And oftentimes that leads to really creative merging of different types of play, right? So I'm talking about the 8 different types, but like engineering, building goes really well with small world. Gross motor goes really well with imagination. And so when we set up our play spaces to have a little bit of each one of these pieces, it invites that creativity to kind of cross those different types of play and like have this imagination explosion in their brain, which is exactly what we want to invite. So, but when we think about trains, like an obsession about a single type of toy is actually there's been research on it. I wish I could tell you the researcher, but there's been research on it that is actually like evidence of intelligence, right?
Oh, cool.
What he is doing is he is researching. He is massively researching the mechanics of trains, how they work, how they connect. There's so much richness in there. But what I would say is your kiddo is so young that we always recommend, like it changes a little bit as kids become teenagers because their interests become a little more defined, right? But for young children, providing them with a kind of all of the opportunities to see what they're interested in, because it's going to change, is what I would recommend. And as far as like keeping the toys and avoiding the clutter, that's where toy rotation comes in.
Oh, okay. So we're going to ask a follow-up question on clutter. And this one came from Suzanne. That I have 3 kids under 5. Suzanne, I tip my hat to you. I have 2 kids under 5, and if you can hear them, they are literally jumping up and down above me. Yes. And she said, I'm struggling to reduce clutter and have different play options for each kid, right? Because one, I'm just making up ages, but 1 and 3 and 5 are very different experiences. Also, we have a nugget and a pickler triangle. I don't know what those things are, but I imagine you do.
I do.
I'm very minimalist in my toys, so you'll have to connect the dots for me. That seem critical, but take up half the room. I do a toy rotation. 1 step ahead of me, Suzanne, but it's still endless and exhausting. So what tips do we have for Suzanne? Just bottom lining it here, multiple kids, multiple interests, multiple toys, limited space.
Yeah.
Talk to us about toy rotation and maybe some other tips for Suzanne who feels like that's not enough.
Yeah. So depending on the space, I'm going to throw this out there, and I like always get a pretty shocked response. So get ready.
Okay.
So depending on the space, I only recommend that you have anywhere between 4 and 8 different types of toys out at one time.
What?
Yes. Yes. Now
I'm minimalist, and that's like nothing.
And that doesn't include the kitchen, right? Because that's a different type of play. Like that's a kind of stand. You're not going to necessarily move the kitchen all the time, right? And it's not the art. Like art supplies are either always available or they're asked for materials and might be in a different spot, right? But when I'm talking about kind of like the things in bins, you have one type of toy per bin, no lid, and only 4 to 8 out at any time. I only have 4. I have a very small playroom. And so we actually have, like, we use our children's bedrooms as other alternative play spaces as well. But I only have 4 types of toys out at one time. And currently we're undergoing construction in my house. And so we call it a toy hub. We just like picked it up and stacked it on the other one because we had to move it out of the other room. And it's chaos. It's chaos, even in my
Oh my gosh.
because
Thank you for just being real and human. Just pause.
Yeah.
Thank you for being real and human. You heard it here. The custom playroom designer's house is also chaos. I'm going to sleep easier tonight. I'm also going through a renovation. So thank you for just normalizing how chaotic and crazy that is too.
It's so crazy. It's banana pants. Okay. And so, but what, the construction hasn't touched the playroom, but just the mere fact of doubling the amount of toys. And so that's only 8 toys, but again, it's a small space, has totally made it a tornado, which drives me crazy because this is why I started this business.
Right.
This toy clutter drives me crazy, right? And so there is this like critical mass that you will find. Like, what is the amount that my kids can handle? What is the amount my space can handle? And that's the amount of toys that you should have out. And so, having the age difference, what I say the word that comes to mind is public. It's not a public playroom. It's like a common. There we go. Like
a shared playroom, a shared space.
Playroom, yes. So when you have all 3 kids in the same space, we need to make that as safe as possible. And so like we stock that playroom with toys that we wouldn't mind all kids touching.
Okay.
And so the little Lego of your 4-year-old, right, is going to be in a caboodle in a separate, and sometimes I would recommend something that travels, because that he or she might want to do that downstairs with you while the other kids are in the playroom, but it's not safe to leave out, right? But that might have a home in their bedroom because that's where it's safe to leave out. Okay. So, but I like the things that travel because as our lives just like, it has to be it has to travel right now because those small pieces are just not safe to have around all 3 ages. As far as like the sheer amount of toys, I hear you. It's really hard, especially if you have grandparents and like aunties and uncles who like sending you a lot of things. It can be really hard. We hear that a lot from our clients, like, how do I manage the grandparents? How do I do this? And I don't know if you want to get into that, but it is hard, but I would just like try it. Just literally take a laundry basket into your playroom and like put stuff in it. Like, don't even mind.
I love this.
Don't even mind a formal toy rotation. Just like put stuff in the laundry basket and put that laundry basket in your closet, somewhere where the kids can't access it and they don't know where it is. Do it while they're sleeping, not while they're awake. And then see what happens. Just observe.
Yeah. This
is like a huge Montessori principle, a huge principle in all forms of education, really. But we all love Montessori, and one of the basic Montessori principles is observation. So like give them 3 things, give them 4 things to play with and just see what they do. They might be stumped for a little bit, but maybe you give them a suggestion and see what happens, right? Or they would just like all of a sudden blow your mind because there's clarity for them. Because they too are distracted by the clutter, just like we are.
So, true story. Right now, while our house is in between phases of renovation,
Mhm.
where my office is set up, this is not my office, but where my office is set up, on one end of the room is basically my office. On the other side is where all my kids' toys are. And basically, um, every single day when I get up and I get up from my desk to get water and I see everything there, I just have fantasies about just throwing all of their toys away. And so if anyone else can relate to that, like I literally answer your point about like putting in a laundry basket, I literally have fantasies about just throwing them all away. And sometimes I come down to my husband and I'm like, do you think it's trash day? Should we just throw away all their toys? Should we give them away? And he's like, I don't know what is going wrong in your day, but like just purging the children's toys is not the answer. So anyway, if any of you have fantasies about just throwing all the toys away and starting over, you're not alone. And maybe I'll try this as like an intermediary step before I do that. We got another question that I'm going to ask you, and I'm just going to preface it by saying, this is something that's really unique to the Something Major community. We get a lot of moms who aren't just busy, but are in these incredibly demanding roles. So we have moms here tonight who are executives, who lead teams. We have some moms here who are single moms. We have some moms here who are really successful entrepreneurs. They're self-employed. So it's just a really kind of diverse gathering of super busy moms in demanding jobs. And that's why this question from Janine, I think is just so resonant. Would love to get your take. She asked, what if you're trying to just get it all done and don't have time to make a Pinterest perfect play space? Are there things that she can do? Again, Janine, maybe you're like me and you just want to throw all the toys away. No judgment, just saying. So are there things that super busy moms like Janine and like the other women who are watching here tonight can do to kind of just get it done quickly, get it done well?
Outsource is my first thing. Like you are the moms that I work with. Like this is something that I hear a lot, and I feel that heavy heart, and I feel it. I feel it right now in my belly, like because I'm also like as a business owner, like I get that busy feeling too, and it is really hard. So I just want to this is first I want to say acknowledge that this is tough and you are wearing a million capes, like not even hats, like capes, okay? Like you have capes floating in the wind behind you. If you outsource as much as you can, whether that is to a partner or a family member or hiring someone, like if we can get that off your plate, like get that off your plate, right? As far as kind of these are my 3 rules for creating and you don't need a Pinterest, like okay, I feel like, so I'm going to preface this. No one needs something that you would take a picture of and post on Pinterest.
And if we want to see those, we will be sending our Instagram out with all of the materials this evening. So if you want to see picture perfect play spaces, we'll have Anne's. But Anne, really do want to hear these 3 rules. Like, what is something, Janine, let's say she doesn't have, she can't outsource it and she wants to do something tonight. You've inspired her, her boys are in bed. She wants to hang up this call with us in 20 minutes and get to work. What are those 3 things, or however many they were, that she can do tonight all on her own?
Yes. Okay. And it's going to involve your laundry basket. Okay. So right, you don't need the perfect space. You need a space that works for your family, right? And then like the paint color that makes you feel good can come later. But here's your triage, okay? Your triage is less is more, sort and store, open floor, okay? So
say it one more time.
Okay. Less is more, sort and store, open floor. Okay, so let's start with open floor. essentially, I want as much space in the middle of your floor. It's kind of different from like, an interior design for an adult space, right? You want an ottoman. You want it to feel balanced, right? You want movable pathways, but you also want the space to feel full and cozy. It's different. We want an open space in the middle because that is an invitation for creativity. Okay. So if you have something like a flip or a ride-on toy, it needs to have a parking spot, and literally take blue tape and write parking on it and then put it on the floor. And you say, this is where this parks now. Put it in the parking spot. Let's practice. I'm going to show you. Okay, now you park it, right? Like this is the parking spot. Okay. Any sort of chair, sofa, push it back. Make sure that there's as much space. Like make sure you as an adult can lay down comfortably if you have a luxury of having this space. Like really push it, like just get things to the corners of the room, open floor. Okay. Sort and store. One type of toy per bin. Okay. So that means that like all of the animals might have a bin. All of the dolls and doll furniture might have a bin. All of the Lego might have a bin. Say goodbye to the toy box. Say goodbye to the catch-all bin. I know it feels like the right answer, but it actually just invites clutter, especially from adults. Okay?
And we literally call that in our house. We have like these bags in our kids' closets stuffed with like toys that we don't have room for, and we literally call it the crap bag. So you're inspiring me to, I want to purge, right? Like I said before, fantasies is just throwing it all away and starting over. Okay, you're encouraging me to unpack the crap bag and sort and store. Tell us more about this, because I'm really interested in this intermediary approach that could save me from, like I said, just literally throwing it all away.
Yeah, absolutely. So you sort and store. And this is like if you're setting up this. So your first step to setting up a toy rotation is the laundry basket. And that is when I say less is more. Let's get it out. Only have the Duplo out, right? Like if I have a mixed age, Duplo are good, right? Maybe cars, animals, and magnetiles or wooden blocks, right? There's my 4. Everything else goes in a laundry basket and gets out of the playroom. Imagination food stays by the imagination area. Maybe the nugget stays out. It's an awesome toy. The nugget stays out. The pickler triangle, you put 2 bicycle hooks on the wall and you hang it up, and that's it. Like it just gets hung up on the wall. We need to get it off the floor. Again, open floor. Same with toys. They need to have a parking spot. Everything needs to have a parking spot that leaves the floor open at the end of the night. But yeah, start off with that less is more by like into that laundry basket. And when you have a moment, like little bit at a time, okay, here's a grow secret. Are you guys ready? It's
yes. Say it one more time.
Produce bags. I'll say it a million times. Produce bags. They are like, you can get eco-friendly ones. They're reusable. Get the cinch ones with a good toggle. And then inside you put maybe construction vehicles in one, right? And then you put community service vehicles in another. And then all of those, go in a bin in your eventual toy rotation. And then look, oh, you guys are like driving me kind of crazy. You need new toys in the playroom, right? You need some novelty. And guess what? When we put new stuff in their playroom, it's like it's someone's birthday or Hanukkah or Christmas. Like it is like the world has changed, and this old toy becomes a new. And so that's what kind of setting that up for us does. But once it's in your laundry basket, you can do that produce bag sorting a little bit at a time. It doesn't have to be all at once. If you're short on space, which I know many of you are, under bed bins are really good solutions. And just getting creative about where those toys live. I know that can feel really hard for people, but there's always a spot, and it's worth it.
Yeah, no, like my mind is just going with all of the things that I'm going to be up till midnight doing tonight because you're totally inspiring
Please
me.
sleep though.
And it's
important.
yeah. No, I mean, trust me. I mean, nothing can keep me from sleep. If there's anything I've learned in this pandemic, it is that I truly can't function without it, and so I have made the choice to not sleep instead of not functioning. Right. So +1 for taking care of ourselves, and thank you to all of you who came here live with us tonight and who are watching, because clearly you're taking care of yourself too by making this a priority and just taking some time out again. And it's like reclaiming spaces, reclaiming our sanity. So we got one question in the chat, another follow-up question on my end, and we'll go to that first. This one comes from Janae. And, this was when I was talking about my fantasies of throwing all my toys away in the middle of the night. She said, to the opposite end, she feels really connected to a lot of the things that she has and bad about giving them away. So whether we're thinking about storage or the rotation or just like a good old-fashioned pare down, what are your insights for how we can deal with the emotional elements of creating and reinvigorating these spaces and throwing things away?
Yeah. Which I feel like might be Janae's sticking point. I don't think Janae is facing that one.
No. Just asking for a friend on that last part.
But yes, one of my favorite clients, they're all my favorites, but like one who like we really connected because of how emotional it is. Because it was a lot of time coaching her through it. Like, what are the things and creating keep boxes, right? But also using that as a limitation of like, I'm allowed to keep this because keep this much to kind of preserve my sanity in my space. Because so much of this is like, we design playrooms so that grownups like to spend time in them too, because we have to supervise, right? At least for littles.
Yeah, and I want to hear more about that. So that's going to be, tell us more about that. Yeah. Well, I want to hear the end to Janae's question about her emotions. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but the next question that I had for you was about creating these spaces where we're invited to basically hang and enjoy too. Like, I want my kids to play so that I can have a cup of coffee, so that I can have a glass of wine, right, while they're doing that. So Janae, didn't mean to hijack your question. I'm going to let Anne finish it. And then, like I said, Anne, just asking for a friend on the second part.
I hear you. So yeah, but I got very close to this client because it is emotional, right? Like, we are with our babies and playing with these toys, and we make attachments to them, right? So I just want to say that is human, that is normal. Absolutely. What we need to do is create a system for you to have what is really special as a keepsake, right? Like, what are we going to keep that is going to, like, when you open that box, it's going to bring you so much joy. And then it's that special box that's for you. And then it goes into your space, because I've also worked with clients who, I had another client who had a similar kind of emotional attachment and had a really hard time with sorting. And she was keeping everything in her son's space. And I was like, that's not special to him. It's special to you. Like, that is yours to be,
so true,
to like love forever and ever. His attachment to that baby toy, he's not attached to that the same way you are. And that gets to stay special for you. Let's free up that space for him in his closet so he can have the things that are going to enrich his language. He had a language delay, so we were supporting him through play in that language development. So let's be really purposeful about what he has access to, and then like, let's give you that special space to hold on to those special toys. But I just want to say, it can take time to go through. It can take a thought partner to go through and like give yourself those support systems of like a partner or a friend or an organizer to just like help you kind of sort through your emotions, right? And sometimes even putting everything in a laundry basket, leaving it for about a month, like, we're busy, a month will go by fast, right? Like, leave it for a little bit, even just a week, and then revisit it and say, like, what is most important in here?
And a year from now, when you come out with like this Grow branded laundry basket line, That's like the next, Anne's like, I'm busy here running a business. But anyway, Anne, I just want to let you know, I think that you should come out with your own laundry basket line because I had no idea what I could do with laundry baskets. And to your point about keepsakes, it's really interesting. I think about, my grandmother died almost 2 years ago. And before she died, when my daughter turned 1, she gave her this book from her own childhood. It was a Mickey Mouse book that was printed in about 1930.
Wow.
And I mean, like, that's not even a toy, right? Like, that is like an artifact. And it's really interesting since we moved into this house. It used to be in my kids' room on a high shelf where they couldn't reach it, and it was like a decoration. And in this house, I haven't even put it in their room because I didn't even realize this until you helped me figure it out. I've been thinking about it as a keepsake. And so before I go and put all my toys in a dumpster fire, I'm going to go through and see what else can potentially be a keepsake.
Right.
One question, some of us, I look at the list of people who are here today, and a lot of us live in urban environments where, again, I think it was Heidi's question at the beginning, we're navigating these really small spaces. When I think about what the play space is going to look like in my home when we're done with this renovation, it's actually going to be a hybrid space, right? It's going to be a kids' play space. It's going to be a place where me and my husband are going to hang out without our kids. What are things that we can do, especially when we're in these hybridized spaces, because we don't have the luxury of a full, proper playroom, we can do to keep spaces open but balanced, right? Inviting for children. But again, I want my kids to play so that I can have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, right? So what are your tips for kind of making that all work?
Yeah, we are doing more and more and more family spaces, right? And it's like we're even thinking about, just like how do we because it isn't just about a playroom, right? We play in all of the spaces of our home, and all of the spaces of our home can support a family bonding, right? And family bonding is also like I am lovingly watching you play independently, and I'm getting to finish my glass of wine, and I feel really good about this, right? Like,
love that.
So much of that is, Mama, look what I built. Oh my gosh, tell me about it. Talk. Okay, go back to playing. And then I get to like chat with my partner some more, right? So those family spaces, we really approach them as family spaces that are meant to, and again, it comes back to like, what is the purpose of this space? Right? Is this primarily a kid's space where we sometimes all watch a movie together? Is this going to be a grown-up space where we're like, I'm going to come down and read my books and drink my coffee in the morning, and the kids are going to play in the afternoon? Like, what is the purpose of this space? Because that's how we figure out the balance. Like, for example, I have a client right now who this is purely a family shared, balanced, grown-ups, children space with children aged 0, like just born, to 10. So, this is, and like dad is an author and he has a massive book collection. They all have to live in this space.
Cool.
Right?
I want to be friends with these people. I want to hang out in this space and see their book collection.
They're like the sweetest humans. I love them so much. But like, they have this farmhouse style because it's really important to us that like you as adults feel really good, right? The rest of their house is a kind of modernish farmhouse. And so we need to bring that, it needs to feel cohesive in this space. But my question is, how do I make this playful? How do I make it so like the kids want to be in there and it doesn't feel so reserved and like a living room where I'm not allowed to play or move or jump or do
I love this.
Right? So, and we do that really intentionally, like with the color, with the fabric choices, with the a lot of the educational design comes in the actual layout of the space. So making sure we have the open floor, and yet we have place for game storage for game night, that it's easy to access, that we have all of the art supplies nice and neatly place so that when I'm down there, I don't feel like Crayola threw up on my living room.
Right.
Like I feel like, oh, look at that Roy G. Biv home edit action happening. My kids are going to destroy it in a hot second. But like, but if you,
I love it.
I love me a Roy G. Biv. So we always set it up that way, at least at the beginning for our clients. But like that they are contained. Here's the crayons, here's the markers, here's the quick sticks, right? And they're all on the wall, magnetic and easy to take down, easy to put back. So again, doesn't feel like Crayola threw up everywhere. On the other end, I have a client who also, like, it is primarily a kid space where the grown-ups will sit and hang out for play dates, right? And so they might have a cocktail downstairs with some friends, but it's the space for the kids. So there is a sofa, but there isn't like, it's much more colorful. It's much more open. We have a rock wall, we have swings, we have, all of the things that are gonna just make play dates amazing so the parents can actually sit down and have a cocktail.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about a rock wall. Like, where can I get a rock wall in my house?
Anywhere. I'll
Okay.
give you ideas.
Yeah, no, and you can come over and help me design my space. Seriously.
Anytime. But no, really. I mean, it's just about, I think, approaching it just so much about how do you know you're the expert in your family. You're the expert in your children. You're the expert in your needs. And so you walk into a space and say, like, how does this space need to serve me and my family? And then you make decisions kind of based on that.
And this is my final question for you, because I want to have a few minutes at the end for us to wrap up. And we have some really, really exciting news here at Something Major. I want to be able to, and tell everybody how they're going to be able to keep in touch with you, and so much of what I see every day working with my clients is that we just are so stuck in this dread, right? That Adam Grant article about feeling blah and languishing, I don't know if it broke the internet, it broke my inbox with everybody sending it to me. And, I think that we have so much to learn from our children in inviting more playfulness and joy. And so, just briefly as a closing thought, as we take inspiration from our children, as you build these incredible spaces for children and their families, what in your opinion is a place or a way where we could just invite more playfulness or more joy into our lives for the sake of us?
I think it's figuring out what is that thing that brings you joy. Is it doodling, right? Like, is it, have you not picked up a paintbrush in forever, right? Like, do you love journaling? And then, I mean, I am not very good at this myself. I am also working to get better at it, but like giving yourself the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, what I love is that if we can find the thing that our kids are also into, like if you have it, especially if you have an older kid and you used to like to draw and they like to draw, like maybe draw side by side, right?
I love that.
Like some parallel joy here, right? Like I just love building and tinkering, right? So just sitting down and just like building and tinkering, even if my kids are playing in the kitchen, like asking me to put costumes on them and they're serving me food, I'm still just like keeping my hands busy, and finding some joy in what I can build. So it's, stealing some moments for yourself when we're playing with our kids. Because I told another group of moms, it's not how much time we spend with our kids. It's not doing exactly what they tell us to do. Like, we don't have to meow like cats all day, right? Like, it's a common request I hear. So it is like giving them cell phone down, attentive time for even just 5 minutes. And even if we're not like totally engaging with them, if we're in that space and we're listening, we're not distracted by our phones and we're tinkering, like, and then we can feel like, hey, I did the best, most awesome thing for my kid today.
And you're hitting on something that's so important. I'm going to share my final thought. I want to hear from you all and us too in the chat. What is one thing that you are feeling inspired to do, to prioritize, to make happen? If not tonight, tomorrow, this week, this weekend, because you came and you took this time out from your out of your busy life, out of your busy night for yourself. We want to hear from you. What is the thing that you're going to take away and do? For me, it's Sword and Store. But Anne, you know, something you said, it reminds me, I say this to my clients all the time. It's not a matter of, do I believe you can be successful? I never doubt that my clients can be successful. It's a question of how fulfilled you are and how much fun you're going to have every day doing it, right? So thinking about architecting a life where we have joy, where we have fulfillment, where we have fun, not just where we're quote unquote successful. And I just want to read some people. We have a +1 for Sword and Store. We have a declutter, prepare mentally and emotionally to give things away. Storage tends to be a big theme. So while we have these 2 minutes left, just want to share a few ways that you can keep in touch with Anne and share some exciting news and some housekeeping here from something major. So first of all, Anne, thank you so much again. This was so much fun. I can't wait to have you come to my house on the other side of my renovation. And we're going to be sending out your website. We're going to be sending out your Instagram. Anne has an amazing team that works with her and her co-founder. So you should definitely check out what they're doing if you're local here in Washington. If you're not local, you should totally check it out for inspiration. I'm also sharing all of the ways that you can keep in touch with me. You know, feel free to obviously find me on social, but I do want to share some events that we have coming up. So on Thursday, May 20th, we'll be doing our next Let's Do Lunch. I'll be sitting down with Dr. Sierra Kaler-Jones for a conversation about finding our voices and owning our message. Dr. Jones is a scholar, a social justice advocate, a storytelling expert, and a public speaking coach. And she'll be talking about how we can really own our message in an authentic way. I'm also so excited to share that we are in the final phases of planning our first in-person event. It's going to be here in Washington on Friday, June 18th. We're going to be doing a mini retreat called Realign and Recharge to help working moms think about how they want to reimagine re-entry after a year that, pardon my French, has kicked our ass. I cannot wait to share more details, including where this outdoor event is going to be. Spoiler, it is a very luxurious location, and we are so excited to share details in the days, hopefully, ahead. So check out for more information there. And again, Anne, you're getting so much love in the chat. I want to thank you so much for doing this. I had a blast. I'm so inspired. I know this Something Major community really enjoyed it as well. So, Anne, thank you again. Thank you all for coming, and we look forward to seeing you all soon. Be well, everyone. Take care.
Thank you so much.